G'day folks, welcome back to Pseudoscience 101. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I'm pretty excited to be back in the lab coat, telling you all things you probably already know. Rest assured, I didn't stop because I ran out of pseudosciences. No, there are hundreds more that I could, and hopefully will talk about eventually. I just stopped because I'm really bad at scheduling my own life. Regardless, let's get into the video. Drugs are bad, but also good. They can help you with pain, mental health, infection, but there's just so damn many. How are you supposed to know which ones to take? How do you know what they do? If only there was some field of study that could point you towards the right treatment for certain conditions. That's right, we're talking about homeopathy. And before I get into the science and statistics, let's have a little history lesson. Homeopathy was created in 1796 by German doctor Samuel Hahnemann. The idea is that like cures like, so what makes an ill person healthy could make a healthy person ill in the same way. He first came up with the notion after eating some cinchona bark, a known cure for malaria. He came down with malaria-like symptoms and then theorized that drugs that could cure disease would cause symptoms similar to that disease in healthy people. He called this homeopathy, from the Greek homoios, or homeos, not super sure how to pronounce it, but it's this word, meaning similar, and pathos, meaning suffering. It's worth noting that all attempts to recreate Hahnemann's symptoms from eating the cinchona bark were unsuccessful, so keep that in mind. So Dr. Hahnemann had his theory, but he wanted to test it. Since it was the 1800s though, he just grabbed some random test subjects off the street. Oh, sorry, my mistake. He used his family and close friends, testing various drugs on them to observe their symptoms. The family and every free moment of every one of them, from the oldest to the youngest, was made use of for the testing of medicines and the gathering of most precise information on their observed effects. Come here, Billy, look what your Uncle Sam got you for Christmas. It's deadly nightshade. Now eat the whole thing this time, you little prick, or you'll fuck up the results. Somehow or other, presumably after one of his family members high off their brains trashed his house for the 5th or 6th time, he decided that large doses would probably produce the exact results he wanted to avoid, and so he switched tactics. He wanted small doses. Really small doses. Massively diluted, tiny doses. So he diluted his drugs, claiming that these dilutions would still retain their effectiveness but negate all of the potential danger. We'll come back to that later, but first we'll talk about the actual dilution itself. So there's a few different methods of dilution. There's serial dilution, where solvent is added to part of a previous mixture. There's Korsakovian dilution, where a container is just emptied and refilled with solvent. And there's the Fluxian method, where solvent is constantly poured through the container. That's not even close to all of them. They're just not all super relevant, so I thought I'd give you a basic overview. What is relevant is how much they get diluted to achieve the desired dosage. Hahnemann himself was in favor of a logarithmic scale, which diluted the substance by a factor of 100. In Roman numerals, 100 is C, so each of these dilutions would be denoted by a number of C. A 1C solution would be 1 part active ingredient in 100 parts solvent, or 1%. A 2C solution would be 1 part in 10,000, and so on and so forth. When you get to 6C, it gets a bit silly at 1 part in 1 trillion, or 0.00000000001% of the mixture being the original substance. At 12C, for 1 in 10 to the power of 24, according to Avogadro's constant, there is a 60% chance that there is a single molecule of the original substance left if 1 mole was used in the first place. When we get to 13C, it's downright ridiculous because there's no guarantee there are any molecules of the original substance left, and if you're using pure water to dilute it, you can be fairly sure there isn't. Hahnemann wanted most homeopathic remedies to be diluted to 30C, or 1 in 10 to the power of 60. This number. Because there must be a limit to the matter. Yeah, glad we found it eventually, mate. Anything more than this would clearly just be stupid. It's at this point that I want to state that if you had a 30C homeopathic solution that contained 1 drop of an active ingredient, you would need far more than the Earth's water to dilute it. The note that they give on this table, which we're not taking as gospel but is amusing all the same, is that you would have to give 2 billion doses per second to 6 billion patients for 4 billion years just to deliver 1 single molecule of the original substance. Efficient. So clearly there's nothing there. It's just water. or alcohol, or whatever else they use to dilute it. Some homeopathic remedies, like duck liver for the flu, are diluted at 200C. This is taking the piss. There's nothing there. Let me break this one down quickly. A 200C homeopathic dilution of duck liver means it's 1 part duck liver in 10 to the power of 400 parts diluent. 1 part in this number on screen now. Now let's say you have the smallest possible amount of duck liver. You have 1 molecule of duck liver. You would need 10 to the power of 400 other atoms just to dilute it. There are only 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the observable universe. That only gets you to 40C. You would need more universes than there are atoms in this one just to make a genuine 200C dilution. Now, I'm not the first person to point this out. In fact, James Randi and the 1023 campaign used these dilution facts to stage protests and oppositions to the sale of homeopathic products. They've staged several mass overdoses on these products, with one demonstration seeing a bunch of people taking 20 times the recommended dose of caffeine cruda for sleep. Hello. Shockingly, they are all still alive. So that's it, right? We've just proven that the remedies don't have any active ingredients in them and don't cause any adverse effects when they are overdosed on. Well, no, it's not that simple, because homeopaths, that's what they call themselves, believe that there are other intangible energetic properties not tied to the physical presence of the active ingredients. They believe in something called the law of minimum dose. This law states that the body has an intrinsic healing response, and you only need enough of a drug to trigger that response. They believe that diluting a drug increases its potency through a method known by most in the scientific community as fucking somehow, but known to homeopaths as water memory. It's like if you lost your TV remote, but you found the plastic bag it once came in, so you just use that instead, because it has the memory of the TV remote, which probably also has the memory of the batteries you once put into it, so it'll work just as well. Actually, if anything, with all of that air diluting the bag and the remote, it'll probably work even better. They often say that these healing properties and water memory needs to be activated by something, like shaking it or striking it, which is called succussion or potentization. Now, this is all pretty convenient. It gets around the dilution problem, where there are often no molecules left. They don't care. They think it's a good thing, so you're never going to convince them with that. Okay, so what about the 1023 campaigns and their massive overdoses? Why didn't anything bad happen to them? Well, there are actually 2 more convenient explanations here. One is that homeopathy can only ever be used for good. It's not harmful, and sometimes you just have to be patient and wait for the effects. This one's pretty hard to argue against. I'm sure at some point all of the people who overdosed on caffeine cruda did eventually go to sleep. The other explanation is that, as I said before, these drugs target the body's intrinsic healing powers, promoting the body to heal itself. So either all of these protesters would never make the cut to join the X-Men, or they just didn't believe hard enough. Okay, let's try a different tactic. Evidence. Cold, hard facts. We all know this one isn't going to work, but we'll give it a shot anyway. The effectiveness of homeopathy is yet to be proven by medical science. No individual homeopathic preparation has been unambiguously shown by research to be different from placebo. No evidence exists that homeopathic treatment is effective, but there is evidence that using these treatments produces harm and can bring indirect health risks by delaying conventional treatment. Homeopathy is regarded as placebo therapy at best and quackery at worst. The National Health and Medical Research Council concluded that homeopathy should not be used to treat health conditions that are chronic or serious, or could become serious. Research is mixed. Fucking lol. This website shows exactly the kind of cherry-picking, evidence-ignoring research that goes on in pseudoscientific circles. Now, I'll provide as many sources as I can in the description, so feel free to look through them yourself and decide if I'm representing them fairly. But I'd like to pause here for a moment. If you've got to this point of the video, and you're having a good time, then that's great, and I really appreciate it. But I'm preaching to the choir. I make these videos because it's fun for me, hopefully entertaining for you, and maybe I can show you a little something you haven't fully explored before. It's fun to point out the obvious and most egregious logical flaws with homeopathy or other pseudosciences, and it's tempting to take that further, but that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to make fun of people who believe in homeopathy. I'm not here to point and laugh and call them all dumb for believing in it, or any other pseudoscience. There are a lot of reasons for that, but the first is, it's simply not true. They're not all stupid. I'm sure they all have reasons for believing in it that fall all across the spectrum of illegitimate to legitimate. Maybe they took a homeopathic remedy once and it helped them with a minor condition. The placebo effect is real, and it can be very persuasive. The exact justification doesn't matter, which brings me to point number 2. This video is not going to persuade anyone out of believing in it. That's not really what I've set out to do, that's not how my videos are structured, and I'm probably incapable of doing so anyway. The only thing I can do for anyone who happens to find my video and does believe in homeopathy is stress that your health and your money are valuable. If you find yourself with a serious health condition, seek medical advice from a physician and don't waste your time and money seeking out alternative remedies that might not benefit you. See, if I was to just point, laugh, and call them all idiots, that would probably hurt the legitimate concerns and criticisms that I'm trying to raise. Back to the video. Now, some might argue that dilution to basically nothing means that homeopathy is unlikely to have severe health effects, unlike some other medicine-adjacent pseudosciences. Now, this is true to a certain point. I mean, you're unlikely to get sick from drinking water. Unfortunately, because it's an alternative medicine, you're always going to have the problem of people pursuing it instead of actual medicine, not as well as. Some sites tell you not to, some of them tell you that you should only ever use it to treat minor conditions, but others claim a little bit more, presumably for money. For instance, Homeopathy 360, where they claim that they can prevent cancer, reduce tumor size, and even fucking cure it. It goes without saying, but that is genuinely evil. That can kill someone. It's the same problem as essential oils and faith healing. It can prevent people from getting real, effective medical treatment when they desperately need it. I don't want this to get too heavy again, but here's another case of a couple that was jailed because they didn't treat their child's skin disorder properly. Instead, they relied on homeopathy, and their daughter died. That was here in Sydney. They had 5 months to act, 5 months to take her to a doctor and seek medical care, but they didn't until it was too late. Long story short, it's another scam. Practitioners call themselves homeopathic doctors, they open homeopathic clinics, but it's all just the same old flavors of pseudoscience, diluted heavily by the impossibly vast solvent of their own bullshit. It's hard to say if the people selling the scam actually believe it or not, but again, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't make it any less of a scam either way. So how badly are they scamming people? Well, you can find an online homeopath consultation for a $66 a month subscription, or you can have an in-person consultation for about $100 and up. The products themselves aren't too awfully priced. RC Homeopathy have little bottles for $12 in dilutions of 6C, 30C, or ludicrous speed. Owen Homeopathics have their products listed at $20, available in 6C or 30C, and I'm just gonna say it. Some of the product names go pretty hard. Yeah, I'm taking Aurum Metallicum for my stubbed toe. Sounds way cooler than it is. No description and not a real product photo, so bit concerning there, but the names are cool. Other online homeopathic shops are around this mark as well, offering small bottles for around $20. So it's expensive, but it's not going to break the bank. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're just pouring water or alcohol in there and calling it a day, but I've seen worse. And that's pretty much all there is to homeopathy, so keep that in mind next time you see the little label at the pharmacy. Now, I've been teaching this course for about 2 years now, and I think it's time that I started on some more advanced topics. I'm going to keep making Pseudoscience 101 videos because I really enjoy them, but I'm also going to work on some other related videos, maybe Pseudoscience 202 or something, so watch out for that. In any case, thanks heaps for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more content, and have a good one.